Okay, to close out the course, one of the last skills you want to have in your arsenal as a host or MC is really getting a handle on whether you work with your assistant producer or whomever with this part of the show, but really getting excellent and masterful at a closing ritual. And what do I mean by that? Well, when I'm talking about closing ritual, you can watch a show like, let's say, Hot Ones on YouTube. It's like a show where they eat hot wings and even hotter questions, where they have hot wings and hotter questions, whatever their tagline is. Uh, the host eventually at the end of the show says, "Okay, it's time to roll out the red carpet for you. You did what you had to do. This camera, that camera, that camera. Go ahead and plug whatever you want to plug." Right. So there's got to be a ritual that people look forward to, whatever it's going to be. It just sort of finalizes and gets the denouement. It lets people know it's ending. An interesting one, a buddy of mine named Noah Sloan, who runs Social Authentic Media. It's an Instagram growth agency on Instagram. Noah Sloan and I jumped on his podcast once, and towards the end of it, he had sort of a don't think, just shoot ritual at the end of the podcast where he says, just say the first thing that comes to your mind, and then I'll say one thing, and we just go back and forth riffing, and just to see what happens, what the honest you is in that moment. Now, that's a little more radical than most people will do for a closing ritual of a show, but get some kind of cadence going, and that's very important. In addition to that, if you really want to be a baller podcaster, and this is something that a lot of people have often been surprised by that I can do, and it's something you should really get good at doing so that you don't rely on your editor, or you don't have to go back to script out a podcast summary, is you want to have this episode summary ready for you from straight from the heart. You've got to learn to trust yourself if you're going to be the host MC. Otherwise, choose somebody who can do it or grow into it and allow yourself to fail and be bad at it the first couple of times. But episode summaries are very easy. At the end of the conversation, while the guest is still there, because something magical happens when you have the guest there, you can you're on the line, but there's just, it's fresh in your mind, the entire conversation you had, and it shows a great deal of respect to the person you just had a conversation with. It'll impress them and it'll inspire them to want to share the episode. Trust me, this has happened to me. So what you're going to do is tell them, hey, can you just hold on while I do a quick episode summary before we wrap up? Especially if they don't have the time, well, you'll do it anyways, while they leave the channel, whether it's the Zoom call or whatever you're using. But hopefully they stay there, because that's where the magic happens. And you just think to yourself, okay, you let a moment of silence go, give it a beat, and then say, thank you for tuning in to the XYZ show. I am your host, Phillip Lanos, and basically what we have for you in store for this episode is something phenomenal. I'm talking, our guest breaks down podcasting from A to Z. You get to learn about choosing a name, audience software options, choosing the intro outro music, what the legal rights are. Even though he's not a lawyer, he gives you that disclaimer, what to do when choosing an editor, what you shouldn't be delegating to your editor, setting up a newsletter, or do's or don'ts, whether you should or you shouldn't, preparing your conversations when you're doing research for the guest, how to develop rapport. All of that is covered by this guest. And without further ado, Phillip Lanos. If you do a summary like that, by really reaching into the memory bank, the short-term memory bank, and you get that skill going, you're going to be surprised at how that informs the rest of your show as a host. Because now you're listening for moments like that, and it really gives you a reason to pay attention. So I hope you have found immense value in this course. It's an amalgamation of 10 plus years of experience as a musician, as a recording artist, as an actor, as a performing artist, as a continuing education fanatic. I'm always reading, I'm doing things like that. And just as a podcaster and digital marketer, there's so many things I could open up on, and the course could have gone any single way. But this is really the greatest primer I've ever seen to really prepare you for launching your podcast. Again, this is the stuff that I do. I work with companies to help them launch their podcasts. I do coaching for people in terms of performance coaching, whether that's you speaking publicly or you becoming a better podcast host and going back and forth with role playing and improving that. It all comes from all the training and all the money I've spent on acting classes, singing lessons, books that I've read, courses that I've taken. my years under mentorship and being tutored by people, the work that I've done, and the failures that I've made. So this is really my magnum opus for anyone who wants to launch a podcast. You can find me on all social media. You can go to my website, philliplanos.com, if you want a hub to look at. I don't update that as much as I probably should, but it's also because I'm so busy with work right now. I've got a few things in the works, so you might see me doing more and more public platform stuff with bigger names and bigger brands as things are moving along in my career. But I'm most active on Instagram and Twitter, and the handle is at Phillip Lanos, at PhillipLanos. I'm also more or less active on LinkedIn. I should probably be spending more time there, but that's a great way to reach out to me. You can always email me at philliplanos@gmail.com, and you can if you have any questions, things of that nature, if you're interested in working with me. All things said and done, if you remember anything that I've told you throughout this entire course, whatever you do, make sure you come prepared, but that you're ready to let it go, and that you treat the other person the way you would if you were in that seat and you were being spoken to. Don't push the boundary too far if they're not ready for it. And at the end of the day, I want to leave you with something that has nothing to do with the course, but it's a great moment of inspiration, okay? Because I love adding value. And again, I'm very casual. I've said this throughout the whole course. There's a story of an accountant and a flamenco guitarist. And the point of this story is very beautiful. So I promise you it's worth the lesson if you can stick around for this. Essentially, this comes from a book by the name of On Becoming an Alchemist by Catherine McCune, I believe. So it's very out there, but the story has incredible value for anyone and everyone pursuing any dream. So this accountant, she's been at the desk day in, day out doing the same thing, and she doesn't really get along with her coworkers, so it came as a surprise to her when her coworkers finally decided to invite her out. They were like, "Hey, we're going out for drinks. Do you want to come out?" And she said, "Yeah, I'll do that." So she goes out, and she ends up going with them to like a Cabo Cantina, very tiki bar-esque kind of situation. And when she enters, she sees that there's a band setting up, and it's a flamenco guitar band. I'm Latino, so I guess I might get away with that. I might not. But basically, it's very flamenco, very sexy, very smoldering, red lighting, the whole thing. And she's just staring at the guitarist, and they lock eyes, and they hit it off. There's attraction. There's a spark. And when it just so happens that when the band's done, one of the coworkers actually knows the group. So the coworker introduces everyone to each other, and we'll just give them arbitrary names. Stacy meets Carlos, and Carlos, is a very hello, and Stacy's like hi, and they hit it off. They go out to the patio area next to the warmers, and they're just loving it. Everybody's having a great time, exchanging stories. Drinks are being, tossed back. It's great. At the end of the night, Stacy and Carlos exchange phone numbers. And Stacy is super excited, goes home, super happy. She doesn't hear from him the first night. Second night, she's like, you know what? It's like the unspoken rule. It's 3 days. Everybody knows that rule. But Carlos never hits Stacy up. And so, life gets back to where it was, and it's very monotonous and routine, and work is good, and, making money and whatever. The coworkers haven't really asked again. Stacy's like, you know what? I'm going out. So Stacy gets herself, after work, she goes down to the tiki bar, again, the Cabo Cantina-esque place, and just so happens there's another flamenco guitarist night, and it's a different band, and this time she's by herself. So she doesn't have the benefit of her coworker introducing her, but she loves the music again, and it's like, you know what? She goes up, hey, I was here last week, there was another band, or the last 2 weeks ago, and there was another band, and I love this stuff. How long have you guys been playing? And so they're like, why don't you come back with us to the patio outside? We're going to go hang out after we finish breaking down the set, with the warmers, and, we'll toss some drinks back. She's like, yeah, absolutely. So in the middle of that, and when they're all out there on the patio tossing the drinks back, Stacy feels the feeling again. She thought it was Carlos, but it's the same feeling. Is she in love with this new guitarist? No, this time there's no real romantic spark, but she's feeling the same way. And it just so happens that she realizes, I was never attracted to Carlos. I was attracted to what Carlos represented. And often in our lives, we are attracted to the things that represent what we want, but we mistake them for things. So whether it's launching a podcast, pursuing a career in entertainment, starting a business, whatever it is you want to do, becoming a lawyer, a doctor, whatever, you might just be a few degrees away from where you actually want to be. Just a little off. You might actually be on the money if you're a lucky one, or you might just need that pivot, that switch. And if you can take this lesson with you and ask yourself that deeper question, the more personal question, the bigger question, what am I really attracted to in this moment? What is speaking to me? Because it's not just surface level, there's something deeper. That may change the entire game for you. And that's just my way of saying thank you for listening and watching all these videos. I'm wishing you all the best. Again, my name is Phillip Lanos. You can find me on Instagram predominantly. I'm a very approachable person, so feel free to hit me up. Thank you. And I hope you launch your show with great success.